Get the fuck off Goodreads. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome. Hey, welcome back to welcome back to page 3.
Not welcome back to Goodreads. We're telling them to get the fuck off, Ellie.
Welcome back to page 3. I'm Ellie.
I'm Sydney.
And today we're going to be de-influencing you and telling you why you should no longer use Goodreads prior to reading a book.
We feel very passionately about why you shouldn't look there first, and we've kind of divided this up into a couple of main points we want to give you. Yeah. We're very passionate about the subject.
Very passionate about it.
Yeah.
So for anybody that has been following us for a little while, you know that I would like to say I was one of the first people to get Syd to read like a romance book or of sorts, but also just like reading like pleasure, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I would say that the only reason that I was ever really great at recommending her books or had any skill at all was because I used to be on Goodreads and I used to love the platform. Like, it was how I found books. It was how I related to people. It was this great bookish community. It was like the original book talk before everything unfolded on TikTok. It had this really great ability to recommend you books. I was able to follow like reviewers and follow them along the lines and like all of these really great tactics that I would use on Goodreads. And I loved it. It was like one of my favorite platforms ever. And I would spend like a majority of my time just going down like bookshelves that people had created and all these different things. And then slowly over time, I guess it just kind of started to shift. And now it's just kind of like a different space. I don't know if you want to talk about like your experience with the Goodreads, but I just think it's like really short-circuited my experience with reading. And I not only can I not find recommendations through Goodreads anymore, but I also don't feel like it's like a safe reader space anymore. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's because of a couple different reasons that we're going to talk about today, but yeah.
I think that Goodreads, or at least when me and Ellie started using it, was like the original book talk. Like, it had all these great recommendations, and I guess like whatever algorithm they used to be super like oriented to what you've read. And I actually recently, I just want to share, this is like a perfect depiction of the experience with Goodreads, is that it started with me asking Ellie every single week for a new book. And then at a certain point I was like, okay, I gotta be a big girl and do this myself. And it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't that hard. Like, you could find people's bookshelves, you could go through your feed. Goodreads had different recommendations for different months and different genres, and there was so many really positive reviews you could read, and like you could parasocially get to know different people. So if you saw them comment on one review, then you could start to trust their experience. And recently I binged a series of 3 fantasy novels that I loved. And I was so excited to read this other one. And I had actually already owned it. However, it was the recommended book when I finished reviewing these ones. It was one of like the 5. On Goodreads, there's a thing that says like readers also liked, and you can scroll through that. And that used to be a lot different than it is now. And this was under it. So I was like, oh, great, I already own this, and I was already thinking about reading it, and it's recommended for me. Double whammy, totally in. It sucked. I called Ellie and I was like, I can't believe I have to finish this book. I cannot believe I'm going to finish this. And I just think it used a great parallel, because when you used to go to the readers also liked, you could see which readers and see which shelves. And it was so easy to be like, oh, well, I know that the person that reviewed this has similar taste as me. I'm obviously going to like this. Like, it used to be so much more reliable. So yeah, that's kind of our experiences.
It used to be really reliable. And I used to remember like I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I would go on, and I prided myself on being like a good person that like would find great books and really had the ability to like parse through and find like books that were actually worthy of my time and worthy of my friends' time. And now I actually wanted to share an example of this, and Amazon reviews is kind of similar to this, but a professor of mine who like I adore, she wrote this really powerful story about Paris, and it had Paris in the title, and it was this really like coming of age novel, and it was very brutal. It was like trigger warning. It was about if you take the G out of grape, that's what it was about. So, and it was this story that she had written, and it was really beautiful. And Amazon reviews had like, there was another book that had Paris in the title, or had a similar word in the title to her thing. It was like, maybe it was like Emily in Paris or something of that nature. This really popular book that went viral. And then it was like readers also enjoyed, and then it was her book, which was completely different than the books that had like that were about
Yeah.
happened that they had the same word and title. So then her book got flooded with all of these horrible reviews because people were expecting a very different book than the one that they were reading.
Yes.
It's like, and then from both to kind of like go back on like the topic that we just had in our previous podcast episode of she was like, wait, what? Like, this is not what I wanted people to read. And like, I would never have recommended the people that wanted to read this book to read this one because they're so vastly different. And I think I feel very similarly also about the way that there's been like an um population, like a resurgence of books that are just getting published so quick and so fast. And a lot of people want like certain tags, like enemies to lovers, slow burn. They want all these things of books that have been written in the past. And I know what it's like to like want to go on. You find like a great book, like Mariana Zapata was like one of my favorite books. She wrote such good slow burn romances. And I would spend hours and hours and hours trying to find books that were just like hers. And I just couldn't. And it's so infuriating. And as a kind of like a way to solve that problem or to kind of meet the market where the market's at, the publishing industries would just pump a lot of money into bringing out novels that maybe they're not quite ready to be on the market yet, or they just need like some more time. And then as a result of that, the books that we're reading now are not, I would not say at the same quality or the same production value as some of the books that we've read in the past.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to hit like a trope instead of just trying to tell a story that happens to have the tropes along the way.
Yeah, I think it's harder to find really good books because even though they exist, they're so Goodreads and Amazon reviews or Kindle reviews, whatever the one you were just talking about is, all the platforms, like Goodreads specifically, and we're not even just referring to Goodreads, that's like our main point, but it could be anything, extremely oversaturated, not with just reviews and people using them, but with books themselves. And so it used to be so much easier to find really good quality books on Goodreads because the quality of books being published was higher. And now, even though there is a high quality level of books being published, there's also a really low quality level of books being published, and they're being mass produced at the same time. And so I think to the story of your professor, a really good point is that I think because of this oversaturation on these platforms, the algorithm has changed and and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not like a technology person. I actually have no idea how this works, but my assumption would be that it used to be a small enough community platform that there could be an algorithm or a person or however it was that could go through and filter through and be like, these people recommended this, so this would be the obvious choice. And now, because there is so much and it's impossible to go through them all at once, because every time you read a book, there's 10 that are being produced at the same time. Like it's impossible to keep up. And so I'm assuming that the technology can't either. So my assumption would be that instead of actually being able to make the recommendations correctly, that taglines like words specifically like Paris in your example, or just like specific like dark academia, slow burn, are all being paired together. But there's just not a guarantee that everybody's going to like it. And you, under normal circumstances, the author themselves would not have recommended to that same audience.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have, like, I could be looking for a romance, but then there's 120 different variations of romance. There's dark romance, there's dark academia romance, there's fantasy romance, there's thriller romance, there's all of these things. There's slow burn, there's fast burn, there's insta love. There's like, I mean, really a million things. And because it's so oversaturated and so diluted, I can imagine it would be really difficult to make the correct recommendations and have the correct functionality. And so I think that does get into our next point, which is the downfall of Goodreads. And I think that's probably a big part of it. It has less to do with the application itself and more the publishing industry.
Completely. The publishing industry is like littered with issues. Littered with issues. I mean, I took an entire course last semester about like just how deeply flawed the publishing industry is. And that's just, and then maybe that's also because a lot of people don't have a lot of hope in the publishing industry, but it prevails regardless. And I think people are going to want to read for the rest of their lives. I have so much hope about that. And I have a very strong feeling if nobody's reading, then I must be dead, really. I also think that there's like something to be said about like algorithms and we talked about this a lot. Like their art doesn't necessarily have a factory setting to it. And the best books, I think a lot of people, it's kind of similar to what we said about like reading in the new year, like if you're trying to read in the new year, it's very satisfying, right? Because you read a book and you love an aspect of it, like you love how slow burn it is. And so then you want to go and you want to find all these books that are also slow burn. Number one, it gets into the idea that we're talking about in our most previous video, which was the idea that like Syd could have a very different perspective of what a slow burn is. I could think that a slow burn lasts until 90%. Her idea of a slow burn that lasts 90% is pointless, right? You want something that's 50%, whatever. That's an issue number one, is that everyone has a different interpretation of what enemies to lovers look like, what slow burn looks like, what all these different things look like. But beyond that, somebody telling you that those things are in a book does kind of take the fun out of it. And I think that when you're trying to
Yeah.
find something that is similar to a book that you read in the past, it's hard because you're trying to reread the story again. And I get it. I want to read the same story over in a million different fonts 10 times over. And it just doesn't work like that. You just kind of have to follow the story, and it sucks because reading is like an investment. It's not like a song, right? Which is also kind of like, to bring up a side tangent that I've always felt like a lot of people always say, like, all of Taylor Swift's like songs sound the same. I just really feel the need to say this right now. A lot of people say that all of her songs sound the same, which I don't agree with at all. Like, I don't agree with that at all. But let's say that that was the case for a lot of people. I am like, that is such a privilege to be able to like like, as if you love her music and it sounds like the same but new lyrics. Like, is that not like what everybody wants? It's like for the same, like she has a very like linear career musically, and like all of her songs, of course they sound a little bit the same, or they come from the same because they come from the same person, but like regardless of that, like there's been so many times where I've been like, I want a song that's just like Sex on Fire, but just a little bit different because I wanted to like experience it for the first time. Like that's like the joy of art, is like to be able to find something like that. But it's a
Yeah.
little bit different with books because part of the joy of finding a book is opening it and those things revealing themselves to you as a reader.
Yeah, and I also think that the reason that that's become an issue and why it's so hard is because, as we've said like a million times before, the art of reading is really subjective. What you like is really subjective. Like, there's a really good chance that in Book of the Months to come, me and Ellie have very, very, very differing opinions. Like,
Yeah.
it's just how it is. Like, there have been books that I've read and I've been like, oh my God, this is life changing. You have to read it. And she's like, not really for me.
An
Didn't love.
example of this is Sid loved the Powerless series by Lauren
I
Roberts.
loved it.
I could have burned that book and been happy. I could have burned that book and had a bottle of tequila in my hand and celebrated at the same time.
And I, like, could not. I was very sad that she didn't love it, and I think here's my point, though, is that it used to be a really independent experience to find what you liked, and because Goodreads was the methodology of doing that, you weren't interacting with 100 of opinions at a time. It was very curated, and the difference now is that for all of its benefits and faults, TikTok exists and Book Talk exists. I like really want to emphasize that this is like not like, it sounds like we are a lot, but we're really not bagging on Book Talk. Like, it is a really great thing, and there's a lot of people that are really benefiting for it. And I think it's a huge part of the resurgence of reading. And I don't want to like discredit
Yeah.
book talkers or people that are participating in that, because I think it's great. But I think the problem is that we've made it really easy to stop forming your own opinions.
Hmm.
We've made it really easy. And so if you go on Book Talk and you put in a recommendation or a person you like or an author you like, there's going to be 100 different people that say, if you like this book, here's this. If you like this book, here's this. If you like this, here's this. And all of the work and the experience of how to get there is taken out of it. And so our opinions are less subjective. They really are. Like, it used to be, and this is the part that I think is sad about Book Talk, is that books used to not be a part of the trend landscape. And maybe they were, and I just wasn't a part of that experience, but I don't think the way that they are now. Like, if you missed out on reading ACOTAR Fourth Wing, people were astonished. It just used to not be that way, and I think we've taken away the autonomy of decision making, especially in reading, by having so much of it accessible. So it makes it so hard because it's become inherently less subjective.
Well, there have always been trends in the publishing world. Like, there have been, like, if you go back 20 years, everyone was writing in third person. And now it's like everybody writes in first person, right? So there are trends like that that have always existed. And the same will always exist, like, in every industry. I think the difference now is that the acceleration of them and the use of them is like at a height where and it's also very niche. Like, there's a difference between being like everyone's writing in first person. Like, how many different things can you write in first person, right? But it's like everybody's writing an enemies to lovers romance. That can only get so there could only be so many nuances within that. And so I think that's where the problems lie, is like
Yeah.
this, and it's almost like fast fashion publishing is like the best way that I can describe it to you. Like, and what I know about like the back end of publishing is like this experience of like you are reading a book, right? It's like fashion industry, right? Like every year, like they announce the fucking the color of the year, and then suddenly that's on the runway, right? But that's like one little niche thing. But imagine if they're like, the color of the year this year is like fucking cloud white, which is stupid as shit, but that's the color of the year. And then they're like, and mini shorts. How many cloud white mini shorts can you really make? That's the problem, is like, and then there's also the resurgence of like, now they want like the cartoon book covers, right? Like which is so stupid. Sid and I have had endless conversations about how dumb the fucking cartoon covers are.
They ruin they perpetuate the judge a book by a cover, so this
So
is a conversation for another time. I also wanna just say that I think, which I articulated poorly, but I think part of the reason it's taken away the decision making and the reason like you said about fast fashion is that now the trends are not as malleable. It used to be
totally.
that the trends were everybody's first person, third person, like whatever, and that's really malleable. You could do a lot with that. But now, like fast fashion, it's become, okay, well, you have to fit in this box. And I think the problem is that between social media and now Goodreads and the accessibility of opinion
Yeah.
has made it so like you, for example, and I'm not saying that it's not the most amazing series ever, but not liking ACOTAR is like not allowed in the book world. Like
Right.
people on Book Talk will not allow you to not like ACOTAR. Personally, I will not allow you to not like ACOTAR, right? But it's not like you have to like it. So obviously, if you're reading reviews of it, whatever, the reviews of it on Goodreads or on any whatever, the stars of it, what people have to say is going to be really skewed because your perception going into it was this is going to be life changing. It's going to
Yeah.
be the greatest thing ever because everybody said so. So it has to be. And I have to feel this way about it because everybody feels this way about it. And if I don't feel this way about it, I'm going to be the only person who doesn't feel this way about it. And
Mhm.
that used to not be a thing. You could find a book and you could write your own review about it on Goodreads, and your opinion was your opinion. And like it was pretty average. And like you could trust the stars and you could trust the reviews because there wasn't this voice that was going to everybody telling you, you have to like this book and you have to like this thing. Like, I have a friend who only likes thriller and mystery. That is it. And I'm a little envious because they don't feel compelled to like a certain thing. But I think there's this voice that's telling everybody, like, you have to like dark academia, you have to like dark romance, you have to like fantasy. Like, not liking right now, not liking fantasy is like unheard of and absurd.
Right.
And that's so that I think that's like the huge contributor to the downfall of Goodreads because not only is the publishing company saying this is the box you have to fit in, so we're going to mass produce hundreds of thousands of books that fit into that exact niche. So now, if you don't like that genre, you're pretty diluted. Or on top of them contributing to this problem, then there's everybody that's participating in Book Talk, which to no fault of their own, obviously is accessing these books because that's what's given to them, and then they love them, and then they're telling everybody else on the internet, I expect you to love these too, even if they don't say it in those terms.
Mhm.
And so then how can you go on Goodreads and then trust stars of a really popular book if everybody's being told they have to like it too? Then it's probably not fucking accurate.
Yeah. And also the idea of, like, that you're not allowed to like certain books, like, because people are so gung ho, so diehard for these books, and I totally get it. Like, somebody not liking your favorite book is like annoying, but it's kind of like everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, and you're allowed to feel however you want to feel about things, however you want to feel about them. And I think I kind of feel similar. Like, there's the other aspects of the like the other places that other book genres that are not impacted as heavily as the romance genre, I would say, in and I could get into this for years about the
Yeah.
why the romance genre is like one of the biggest selling industries, and yet all the misogyny that goes into it and all the problems and why it does so well, and the like
And why we'll still read it.
I will still read it, and like the idea that like and like how that's a topic for another time that I need to write down. But it's just there's so many issues, but the reading other genres, maybe they're less impacted by them, and I'm so envious of that. And I
Mhm.
think that's something that I've always heard, and like something that I've kind of always told people, like when I talk about like politics, or maybe I don't agree with something that something's happening, and they'll be like, you shouldn't hate on places. Like, how can you hate on something and say that you love it at the same time? Like, very similar. Like, I'm not hating on something because I hate it. I'm hating on it because I love it, which might sound counterintuitive, but it's like, I just wanted this space to get better. Like, I love reading. I want reading to be my future. I want reading to be everything I ever do. I want to be an author. I want to have my own publishing company. I want to do all these really amazing things. And so, like, if that were to be the case, then
What
I would,
world do you wanna bring that into?
right. And like, why would I not demand that it be better? Because I know it can be better. And why would I
Yeah.
not want it to be as great as it can be? And so I think that's all we're trying to get at, is like the idea that like the recommendations that are found on Goodreads are not always so good. And
Yeah.
then
And I think we, like, really urge everybody that, like, if you go on Goodreads right now, the odds that the stars you see and the reviews you read are reliable is pretty low just because of what we talked about in the last video of, like, it's just better to go in with an open mind and your own clean slate and your own thoughts and your own opinions because you are inherently going to pick up on others, and you could see a book could have tens of thousands of reviews between arcs and also the people reading it now, and it's accessible to literally everybody, and everybody's heard of it because it's trending, so it's not now now it's not really coveted by a specific group of people that know that they're gonna like this genre, it's coveted by
Right.
everybody,
Right.
and so everybody's reviewing it, and so the first review you might read might be 1 star, and the second one might be 5 stars, and you're gonna absorb whatever you read, like, of those reviews, and you're gonna absorb if you see that it has a 2-star rating, you're gonna assume that it's a 2-star book, and so I think, like, what we're trying to urge you to is that and I'm a avid user of Goodreads, like, avid user. I write in-depth reviews, I rank all my books, and I think to that portion of it, it's really useful. I think Goodreads is, for better for worse, has turned into a post-read use
Completely.
to document your thoughts on the book, give it your own readings, create your own shelves, maybe set up your reading goal for the year, whatever it may be, and to interact with your friends. Like, I follow my friends on Goodreads, and I love to see what they're reading, and I love to see when they post updates about their books, but I don't use it to find any books anymore at all. I find all of my books through the bookstore, through asking people that have actually read them and, like, who I know personally. Like, for example, there are certain books that I'm not gonna ask Ellie for a recommendation on.
Mm.
I'm not. And there are certain books I'm not gonna ask my friend Tess, who's, like, an avid mystery, thriller, psychological thriller, murder mystery, like, whatever. I'm not gonna ask her about her opinion on a romance book. That's not who I'm gonna go to for the recommendation, but I have the privilege of being able to know who to ask for what those things are, and it used to be that Goodreads gave us that you knew which shelves to go to for which opinions, and because that doesn't exist anymore, I think if you really want to enjoy the experience of reading and be able to experience it for yourself as a solitary subjective activity, Goodreads is a post-read thing.
Completely.
You cannot go on it before.
Completely. And then a point that Sydney brought up, and I'm gonna give all credit to her, that I thought was really wise is the idea that, like, when you're going on Book Talk, and when you're scrolling your algorithm, like, and you see a book recommendation, the benefit is that you can go onto somebody's page really easily and see that these are the type of books that people are reading and be like, okay, you're reading romance. Like, okay, then you would be a good judge of what a good romance novel is, right? But now it's just getting really, really difficult and really, really hard because on Goodreads, you can't see whether this is a genre that people experience or not. And, like, quite frankly, like, there are so many different readers and you just don't know how to gauge whether they are, like, a reader that's like you, which just makes it really hard. So, yeah,
Yeah.
moving forward, just read.
Read your own books, read whatever you wanna read, pick them yourself, like and or don't pick like, I follow somebody on Good and I think that's where I came up with the apparently wise, intelligent point about Book Talk, was that there's a woman I follow on Book Talk, and I stalked her entire page before I followed her and saw the types of books she was reading, and it was stuff that I had already previously given 5 stars to, so I was like, "Oh, super reliable, follow." There's people on Book Talk that I scroll immediately past because I just know we don't align. No discredit to their content, but we are just not reading the same things. And so I trust her recommendations a lot, but to Ellie's point, it's been made so difficult to do that on Goodreads now to, like, validate or verify if somebody's the same type of reader as you or has the same opinions as you, so to gauge what's a good book is impossible. So yeah.
And also don't assume that every reader is a reader like you. Don't
Yeah.
assume every person that scrolls across your For You page is gonna be able to determine what you would think is a good book, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing, whether they, whatever it be. So, yes. Now for
Read
us
your
to
own.
kind of counteract everything we just fucking said, but I guess what we're getting at with Book of the Month is the idea that, like, you can learn what Sid and I do or don't like about books and, like, gain your own opinions and feel your own things about it.
Yeah.
And, like, learn, and it can be, like, a more, like, symbiotic relationship instead of just, like, a, "Here's our opinion, have none
Yeah.
yourself," maybe more of, like, a co-creation. So, we hope that you read the next 60 pages of I Who Have Never Known Men.
We have.
Crazy. Crazy. Incredible. I love it. I am, like, frothing out the mouth to,
Finish
and
it.
I agreed that we would, like, not read the entire thing. We were gonna read it in increments so that we can, like, really keep track of, like, what was gonna happen when.
Yeah.
Um And this section, I literally I have to go to work in, like, mere minutes, actually, but I am, like, waiting to get in the car so I can drive, so I can listen to the audiobook and, like, experience the story because 'cause I'm so intrigued to see where it goes, and I think that there are so many things about this novel that are so fascinating to me.
I just can't wait to talk about it next week because I also am like, as soon as we finish recording this episode, I'm absolutely gonna go finish the book.
Yeah, me too.
And I can't wait to talk about it because I think me and Ellie both really like it, but for completely different reasons. Because I'm not a writer and
Mm,
I love it for the way it's made me feel as a reader, but Ellie has the privilege of getting to read it from a writer's perspective also. So I think we love it for 2 entirely different reasons, and we overlap in some, but I just think it's gonna be interesting to hear how we think at the end.
yeah.
And I also just wanna say that prior to us giving our opinions on Goodreads and even coming up with the concept of Book of the Month, and, like, I know that's not a revolutionary concept to, like, do Book of the Month, but before we even talked about that, we had a lot of conversations about our opinions on Goodreads and, like, if we felt it was fair for us to say all of these things and then also ask you guys to read with us and, like, if we thought that that was really contradictory or really whatever. And we did go through our Goodreads and see some books that, like, we thought were amazing that were given less stars or were given more stars, and we basically just came to the conclusion that we're not asking you to agree with us and read with us. We're asking you to participate in reading in general, and if you don't want to, it's totally fine, but we're giving you the option to find a community in which you have two fairly different readers to resonate with or not with. Like, maybe you resonate more with how Ellie feels, maybe you resonate more with how I feels, but we're trying to combat the oversaturation by giving you two pretty reliable people, I think. And so, yeah, I just wanna, like, say that we're not trying to be contradictory to our really passionate opinions about Goodreads and the reading community, but we just wanna kind of reconcile some parts of the community that we wish still existed, and we hope that we can be that portion. And I am so into this book of the month so far. I'm so intrigued by it. I don't really have any new opinions than last time because I'm still confused, but, like, also, like, can't stop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really sure what's going on. They've been out of captivity for 12 years, but they're still, like, living in the like, there's no civilization?
And I think that the interesting thing to me is, like, that there's no civilization. They keep finding it at camps. I thought that the camps were only women. I was
Yeah,
so
and
confused
then
to find out
the
that they
guards just up and they're gone. Like, the guards actually vanished
and all of them across the entire however
wherever they are.
12 years, you could travel across a nation in 12 years if you're on fucking foot and you have nothing else to do with your time,
Yeah.
like, it's crazy to me, and, like, I have no idea what's going on, and I'm also just so intrigued by why there are people that are in captivity who got chosen. There's so many things that I'm so
I
confused.
wanna know how I'm really hopeful
Yeah.
that some of my questions will be answered because I know that the same questions the narrator during her time and experience had, so I really hope we get answers, and I really don't have anything else to say because I am just as confused as I was at the end of the first 60 pages.
Oh, totally. That's kind of how I'm feeling too. The only difference that I guess I'm experiencing is like the confidence of the narrator, though it's kind of always
Yes.
been there. But her like, and I think it's more of like how she was a time marker in the beginning, like both like just physically, well, physically, but like in a heart way. But now it's like she's physically a time marker of like all these people are going to die without her. And I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see like how all of them in the beginning of her being there were trying to like teach her things and that they can't remember things. And how do you remember all this time in captivity? And how are you supposed to differentiate your days if every single day is the same and you eat the same things and you talk to the same people and nothing changes? And like it's just interesting. And I guess the frustrations that we feel as the reader is also the frustrations that the author
She
experiences.
feels, yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed in this section is the radical acceptance that she's faced. Like, there was no like, during the first 60 pages initially, there was no they get out at the beginning of the first 60 pages, but at the beginning of that, there was, like, no thought that that was even a thing, and none of them had even given a thought to try. Like, they all could just kind of accepted that, and she was the only person who just had no acceptance. Like, she didn't accept her life, she didn't accept the knowledge that she was given, she didn't accept the knowledge she was teaching herself. Like, she didn't agree or disagree with anything, but she didn't accept shit.
Yeah.
And seeing in these 60 pages where she's just accepted the fact that everybody's gonna die and I'm gonna be alone and I'm gonna have to keep walking and I'll probably never find anything, but I'm just gonna do it. Like, her resolution and radical acceptance at the same time is so strange. And I highly recommend, if you've ever read Lord of the Flies, that's the one where they create their own civilization. If you read Lord of the Flies and had any interest in that, I think this is a really interesting parallel to a lot of the same concepts.
Completely.
And
And
I
also,
highly recommend.
she doesn't really have any choice. Like once they're out, like that's the goal, right? And then it happens, and once they're out, it's like, well,
Then what?
well, then what? Like you rejoin civilization, and they're just trying to seek for civilization. And it just kind of speaks to like what you would do, and it's that same idea that I was trying to say a couple videos back of the idea that like when you create an entirely new society, it is impossible for you to not bring some of the problems that you have with the society that you're in right now to the next society because
Yeah.
you don't have any understanding of it. And it's so interesting because all of these women, all of their understandings of what it is, like that sense of normalcy, as much as we hate it, are the only things that we can really cling to when shit hits the fucking fan, and the things that we miss most are like going to the bathroom, right? And all of these things. It's
That's like the bathroom thing is such a great point because
and the
and this
solitude
goes back
of it.
yes, and this goes back to the part where we were talking about how interesting it is that she, like, just creates this new way of understanding the world because
Yeah.
she has no context, so the way she perceives the world is so strange. Like, in the cage, they call it the cage, so that's what I'm gonna call it. In the cage, the bathroom was public to everybody. All 40 women saw each other go to the bathroom. All the guards saw them go to the bathroom, we assume. It was public. And when they get out, they put a blanket over a hedge and dig a hole, and they can go to the bathroom in privacy. But our narrator, who we still don't know her name, has never gone to the bathroom in public. Has never gone to the bathroom in private. She's only experienced it. So she even talked about throughout the 60 pages, like many, many times about how she would be having conversations and be going to the bathroom at the same time. And she had no shame in that and no whatever. And when they build this hedge with a tree, a lot of the women start crying because they're so grateful they can go to the bathroom in privacy. And she's sitting there being like, why do you care?
Literally.
Like, we've done this for the last 20 years or the last 12 years or whatever. And the first time she speaks about how they're giving her the privilege to use the private bathroom, and that she can tell that it's special to them, but she doesn't know why. And she goes in and she says that she was scared and she couldn't wait to get out because it was the first time in her entire life she'd ever been alone.
Right. And what that loneliness feels like. And then she kind of craves it when she goes to watch the cabin in the beginning. And she's just like, yeah, I'll go alone because I think I'm going to like to be alone. And that idea. And then they build the houses and then they're on the
And
house.
then when
Yeah.
Yeah, and when she has the opportunity to build her own house and be alone, she doesn't she keeps saying that she's gonna crave being alone, but habitually she's never been alone. So she actually goes through zero effort to be alone. And then all of a sudden at the end of these next 60 pages, I can't wait to see what happens. She's alone.
Like theoretically, she's like the last person on earth.
To her knowledge, she thinks that she's completely alone in life.
And also, what is the siren? How did all of them hear the siren everywhere? Like, what?
And where's it coming from?
And where's it coming from? And what was their society before? I have so many questions, and they have to be answered in this next section. I also have to go the fuck to work. So, unfortunately, I'm just gonna keep.
We hope you read with us. I cannot wait next week to discuss the finality of this. Everybody tell Ellie good luck at work.
We'll see you next time in the next chapter. And yeah.
Yeah, we love you.
We love you.
Get the fuck off Goodreads. Moral of the story. Get the fuck off Goodreads. Read I Who Have Never Known Men. Bye.